Hey everybody, welcome to this video. This one is going to be a little different than what you often see on this channel, and it's because we're going to go through a whole bunch of stuff. We want to show you literally our entire process that we've used over and over and over again to start a brand new blog from zero, even with no experience, and build it up to a full-time income in about 24 months. That's our goal here. Now, I want to point out, we've done this a bunch of times now, but the first time I was just like you, wherever you're at right now. I had never done anything like this before. The idea of making money from the internet was like, okay, that's cool and all, but isn't it like super sketchy? And everything you do has to be really spammy and fake. You're gonna make a bunch of money maybe, but then it's all gonna come crashing down. That's the way the internet making money stuff works, right? But no, what we found here is an incredibly reliable, fantastic, and in a lot of ways, like really wholesome, good way to make great income from creating online content. I'm excited to share that with you today. So over the duration of this webinar, there are several things that you're gonna get. And the first thing that you're gonna get is our entire process. Step by step, this is our plan for how we help people over and over again to create a full-time income for themselves. But we really want you to be successful, so we're gonna help you out with just as much as we can give you.
We're gonna give you a timeline where you can actually know what to expect. One of the number one, if not the number one cause of failure for people is giving up and not even knowing how close they were. It's really important for us that you understand what to expect during this, because if you don't understand how long it could take or what the money-making process is, you could get discouraged and just burn out too fast.
I've had multiple people tell me, I wrote like 30 blog posts on my blog and I'm not getting any traffic yet, and I'm really discouraged. I'm like, well, when did you write those? How long has it been? Oh, well, I wrote them all this month. Okay, you need to recognize that there is a timeline, that there's a certain amount of time that's just required before any of this really starts to work. And by knowing that, I can't tell you how many people have said, oh, I'm so excited. I'm on month 5 and I finally made $10. To someone from the outside, that would just sound insane. Why are you excited about that? The point is that when you hit that and you know what to expect, and you know that after that $10 comes 100 and then 500 and 1,000, and what to expect, gosh, it keeps you motivated to keep going, even those first couple of dollars. The next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna explain to you sort of the mix of content. So it's not just that we're saying, here's a process and here's what we teach, but also specifically, here's the types of content that you're gonna wanna make and how the content all fits together. This is a big update from what we've taught in the past. It's not just a matter of creating the right types of blog posts, but making sure that we create them on the right topics and that we connect them in the right way.
The content is the bread and butter. Yeah. We love creating content of all forms, but something you can take from this is that we're not only gonna tell you to create content, but exactly to the very T, but what's gonna work and work the fastest for you so that you can get to success as quickly as possible.
The other thing we want to make sure we cover in this webinar is just the entire game plan of how to be a content creator in the age of AI. A lot of people are afraid what happens when AI is producing all the content. But in this webinar, we will discuss that. We'll address that. What does it look like in the age of AI and going forward? I'm actually still really excited about the future of content. In fact, I think I'm more excited about it because AI is doing some things that are making it so I think we genuine content creators have just a much bigger opportunity for success.
We're gonna ask that you give us your attention. This is a longer video than we typically create, but there's gonna be so much value here. If you'll stick with us here, we can literally save you years of floundering trying to make something work that just won't. For us, we have a great plan and we're gonna share it with you today.
So first of all, for those of you who are new here, who are we? And why should you listen to anything we have to say? So I'll introduce myself. My name's Ricky. I have been a content creator. I've been making YouTube videos as well as been blogging for like 8 years now. And over that time, I've built multiple websites to great incomes, several, 5-figure per month type incomes just from those blogs. I've built numerous sites that we've sold, totaling hundreds of thousands of dollars. One in particular that we sold, camperreport.com, is awesome. Great website, but very simple, about literally campers and RVs. that sold for over $300,000. And you see this process and recognize that that site was built following a very, very simple process, you'll recognize just kind of how possible it is for you. And I think what's even cooler than the fact that we've done this so many times is when we see our members, Project 24 members. We have a thread in the community of where people share just exciting news and success stories. And we've had several people post about selling their own blogs that they've created for hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's just, oh man, I almost get goosebumps every time that I see a post like that.
It's honestly the best part.
I just want to, shout for joy. So that's what's going on. This definitely works. So yeah, I've been doing this for a long time, but I'm also a pretty average guy. I worked a normal job for a long time. I started this business. I started blogging on the side. I started creating YouTube channels, literally with my buddy, my friend, Jim, who helped me. The two of us founded this business together and created these processes. And we did that like getting together one night a week for a couple hours. This doesn't have to totally like take over or dominate your whole life because I can show you, I did it that way too. Building it up from just my free time and turning it into what it is today.
And I'm Nathan. I wrote my first blog post in 2014, and ever since then, I mean, I was 14 years old at that point. I was really young, and I always thought, man, this would be so cool to be able to do, but I knew it wasn't reality. I grew up, I went to college, I got my degree, and I ended up finding a way to build blogs, websites, and other forms of online media full-time, and it's just awesome.
It really is a really fun and exciting way to work. So now that you know a little bit about us and why we know the things that we know, we're gonna go ahead and dive in and share with you basically how all of this works. All right, so this is what you really came for, is to find out like, how are we doing all of this stuff? Now, some of you are familiar with blogging and you just wanna know what does the process look like. But for those of you who are less familiar and just wanna understand, how does this work? How do you write a blog post and then the internet like sends you money? So we're gonna explain just a little bit how this works. This is how blogs make money. It's a pie. The first way that most blogs are making money, and I have this as a smaller piece of the pie, but the easiest thing that you can do basically is just regular old advertising on your website. Google provides ads. They're the main company that people go to advertise on the internet. But they provide those ads through other companies that make it really easy for us to just say, put them on my site, and then you can have control over where they go. And then you just get ads showing up, and they decide which ads to show to which people and all of that stuff. And you just get to collect a paycheck. It's like, I wrote a blog post and the internet sends me money.
In the past, access to advertising on your websites, especially for small or beginning creators, just wasn't the same as it is today. You as a small creator can get advertisements on your website so that you can start making money earlier than you ever have before.
It's really cool because for a long time, you could put Google ads on your website, but they were never optimized. But what's happened is there's all these different ways that companies are deciding which ads to place on your website, where to put them, that's so much more optimized that now it's actually worth putting ads on your website. For years, we didn't even teach this step because it wasn't worth it. The next way that we're making money from websites, and this is piece of the pie number 2, is affiliate marketing. If you're not familiar with what affiliate marketing is, basically you recommend a product that you think would be a good fit for your viewers or your readers. If they click your link to purchase the product, you get a commission. Basically, you're kind of like a salesman for that product, but you don't actually have to work for them and you get to sell it however you want to.
And I think this is a great way, first of all, to make money online because you have the ability to provide value. When we look at selling things or being salespeople or being affiliates, we think, oh yeah, great opportunity for money, but you can do it in a way that provides value for people.
Yes.
Anyway, that's how I like to look at it, but it's also really financially rewarding as well.
That's really what our process looks like, is we choose to go information first, focus on being extremely helpful, and basically because of that, we actually end up doing a lot better with affiliate marketing because your content is so much more trustworthy. Now, there are a lot of bloggers who that's the whole pie right there, ads and affiliate marketing, and it's amazing because they're both incredibly passive. But there's another huge piece here, and this is information products. This is something we do a ton of and that we specialize in really at Income School. Many Project 24 members have done the same thing, and what you do essentially is take information on the topic, right, that you have your website about. You picked your niche, you've got a great topic, And then what you do is you package up some form of information, often in the form of a course, sometimes even simple as an ebook, sometimes an audio guide. There's so many different ways to create an information product, but you package it up in a way that is so incredibly helpful. And the cool thing is unlike advertising and affiliate marketing where you make pennies off of each person who interacts, with info products, it's your product. You get to keep all of the value of your hard work and gathering up this audience. You get to advertise your own product. And it's a fantastic way to make a substantial income. Oftentimes these end up being even smaller slivers because the info product does so well. So this is what we teach. We teach exactly how to monetize websites, and this is how blogs are making money. This is how the internet pays us.
There are a lot of other ways you can make money on a blog,
Totally.
but these are some of the best ways that we have found to make money, and so we have to share them with you.
Absolutely. Now, I also want to highlight, before we jump into the step-by-step, like what we're doing here, I want to highlight what's changing. We've done videos like this in the past where we walked through our process, so why is this one any different? There are a few big changes that have come to blogging and that are going to continue to be developments as we move forward. The first one is that search is changing. This isn't brand new. For a long time, people were really heavily focused on keywords and making sure that your blog posts had specific words in them enough times that Google would recognize those keywords and you would rank when those words showed up in search. For a long time now, Google's been very much based around specific search queries, not specific words in those search queries. So it's about what is the question and what does that question mean? This is moving further with AI. Right now, Google is working on, and we've been able to beta test this new search engine, this new process that essentially, it does a couple of things. One, it does provide an AI-generated answer to search queries in addition to all of the rankings that show up on the search result page. But the other thing that it does is it takes the search query people are asking and it understands it so much better than before. This is what we're calling semantic search. It's not about a specific search query that's worded in a specific way. It's about the intent behind the search. So when somebody does a search on Google moving forward, we're gonna wanna make sure that we answer those questions in a great and thorough and helpful way, but that we don't get too hung up on the way they word their questions. This is a change, but for what we've been doing at Income School, it's not that big of a change.
The next thing is AI, and AI is something that is just infiltrating the industry and really so many industries, but specifically AI and how it impacts content. Now you can go on, use an AI tool to create hundreds of articles in the time that it would take a regular person to create 1 or 2 or 3 articles, rather than trying to outrun the AI at this point. But now, being a great blogger is about standing out. And standing out means creating great, helpful content that's going to show the user, to show the searcher that you have the answer that they're looking for.
And that right there is what this channel is really all about. And really a lot of what Project 24 is about too. That is just teaching you how to create really good content that stands out and teaching you how to know what content is needed on the web. So that's what we're here for. If that's what you want, make sure you keep watching this video as well as the rest on the channel. The third big change is something that Google's been really focused on for a while now, over the last year or so, and this has really been disruptive to a lot of people who have been blogging, really in a way that, I don't know, I'm kind of okay with the fact that it's really not working out for that type of blogging. Google is highly focused on ensuring that the content that is surfacing is really helpful content. Now, they don't always get it right. People are like, oh, Google's just showing like the biggest companies, their websites just rank the most. That comes down to a principle called EEAT. It's one we're gonna talk about in just a few minutes. And really it is that for certain search queries, they just need to know that this source of information is authoritative and trustworthy. You can be authoritative and trustworthy without being a big company, and we're gonna teach you how to do that. But the second thing, and the helpful content thing, what Google's really concerned with is not showing up a bunch of content on the first page of Google that is all exactly the same. For years now, bloggers have been taking what other bloggers wrote and rewriting it in their own words, sometimes using tools to do it for them. And so the whole first page of Google was starting to get filled up with basically carbon copies of the same blog post. That does nobody any good. And so if the content doesn't have some unique benefit for the internet, Google is often not only not going to show that on the first page of Google, they're not even going to include that content in their index. And that's why we focus so much here at Income School on creating as helpful a content as we possibly can. And that's why our members are so successful.
Okay, I have a question for you. What's something that you have just researched to death? Something that you have Googled over and over, maybe 10 or 20 different ways just to find the right answer, or an answer that actually helps you. But as you searched and searched and searched, you just didn't find the answer you were looking for. I'd love to hear what those are in the comments below. I know that that happens to me, not all the time, but there are definitely times where I am looking for an answer that I just can't find. So let us know if you've had that experience, because it's very possible that that could be a great place to start.
It's amazing that given the sheer amount of content that's created every single day, that this ever happens anymore. And a lot of people tell me all the time, like, there's no more space. Everything's covered. There's nothing more to say. That's just so far from what we experience. Anytime that you've discovered this situation, that's a search query, that is a question or a problem that still needs to be solved on the internet, and you could be the one to solve it. Now, the next thing that we want to do is we want to introduce you to sort of the timeline of expectations. These are nicely color-coded for you to fit the phases of building a blog that we're going to be talking about over the next several minutes, okay? So you can see that they're not only color-coded, but they're also drawn to scale. The early phases that we're about to talk about take a very short amount of time. You complete them pretty quickly. Basically, what I want you to do is I want you to see, first of all, how long each one of these takes and just what you should expect for yourself. Oftentimes, people have really high expectations for themselves of, one, what they're going to be able to accomplish, and two, what the results will be, how quickly they're going to start getting lots of traffic to their blog, and how quickly it's going to start making them a lot of money. This is a process that we specifically plan on taking a full 24 months to reach a full-time income. That's for a reason, but the most beautiful thing about this is, while it's not get rich quick, it's a process that's very repeatable, and that basically, like, as you build this up, you can have a great sustainable income for a long period of time, especially if you follow those principles we talked about of creating really helpful content and content that's unique. So without any further ado, let's jump into the process, like what this is gonna look like. So at the very beginning of your blog, you'll notice this like little sliver over here. It's only like a week, right? The first phase that we go through when building a blog, we call it the compass phase, because it's about steering and giving us direction. This is actually a phase we come back to because later on, there's times when it makes sense to go back and sort of revisit your blog, the direction you're taking, and to look through old content and revitalize some of it and find ways to improve it. But in the very beginning, you should only spend a week on this phase, because what we're gonna do here is we're gonna pick the niche that we're gonna go into, and then we are going to move on it. One of the biggest issues that we see is that people get hung up here and they spend so long not knowing, am I in the perfect niche? Is this just right? Should I try? Should I not try? And 6 months go by and nothing is done. It is far better to be 50% sure and to just dive in. You can figure out pretty fast once you get started if it was the right niche or not. So just do that and you'll get it figured out sooner. Even if you waste a month going down the wrong path, you'll be 5 months ahead of where you'd been if you just did nothing.
Something that we've seen over and over again is that if people will just start and then start writing the content, start getting that traffic, they will find a way to make it successful monetarily.
Yeah.
It's just that so many people overthink the process of choosing the niche, because there are a lot of good options out there. It's just that not one is ever going to be perfect. And so you just gotta dive in, and that's why we only spend a week on this. We only wanna give you a week on this because it's too easy to overthink.
A lot of people think that there's a perfect niche. We'll get asked all the time, like, what's the best niche, or what's a good niche for 2023? My answer is, well, what are you interested in? My number one criterion for picking a good niche for a blog, even for a YouTube channel, for content creation, is to pick a topic that you're interested in. That way you can be excited to work on this rather than have to dread it every time you have to sit down and write another article about a topic you don't care about. So start by thinking about things you're excited about. What are those things you have researched to death on Google? And start there. That could be a fantastic place to find your niche.
That takes us to phase number 2, the starter phase. Actually, this phase is really, really important. Time-wise, it is one of the
Pretty
smaller.
short.
It's about a month span, but you're gonna do some very, very key things during this that will help launch you to success. And the first one is search analysis or keyword research. Keyword research is something where you are taking your niche and you're diving into it and you're finding out what should you write. What's the content that's needed on the search engine ranking page? What is the content people are looking for? And it's a very strategic process that we take to find out these answers. We're looking at competition analysis. We're looking at search volume. We're seeing what other people have written to see how we can level up our content. We're doing all of this analysis to find exactly what's going to be the best content for us to write.
At a high level, the goal here is just to find topics that people are actually searching for, and then figuring out which of those have gaps that we can fill. Not even necessarily that nobody's answered that question, but that it's not answered satisfactorily. So that's the first step here in this starter phase, is figuring out those topics where there are gaps on the web. But jumping over to the other side, TA. Topical authority is another thing that we really dive into a lot in this phase. And that is ensuring that we create enough content on any particular aspect of our niche that we have real depth. Google doesn't like to see websites that are super shallow, that only cover the surface level. So what do? We take the ideas we've discovered, those questions where we can fill in the blanks. And then based on those topics, we say, well, what are the most common other questions people ask that are closely related to these ones? And we create content answering those questions too, even if there's already other content on the web answering the same question.
Okay, this is really, really important. This is more important than ever. And we mentioned earlier how much Google is emphasizing this. But now more than ever, it's rather than just throwing spaghetti on the wall and finding, even if they're good topics, it's so important to create content in clusters so that you can actually gain some of that authority.
Absolutely. It used to be that this was something we recommended. In fact, a year ago, when we did a huge update to our whole blogging system, we started talking about topical authority. We put these lessons in, and I don't think that we stressed enough just how important it was. And today, especially with the way that AI is moving in, I think it's more and more and more important. It actually allows us to be able to create authority without necessarily having to create hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of blog posts. We just be more strategic about which ones we write. The next thing that we do in this phase is we start posting content. Write a blog post. We have an entire recipe for exactly how we write the most basic form of blog post. We just start with the simple question. We answer that question right off the bat in a very short, concise paragraph. And then we break down what are the caveats or what are the pieces of that question that we could dive into with more depth. And those become the subheadings. And then we have 3-4 subheadings in a blog post. And each one of those subheadings is followed up by a couple paragraphs that answer that sort of sub-question. Very simple and very straightforward, but this format, I can't tell you just how valuable that is. By having this sort of a format, we've sped up the time that it takes to write dramatically because we just have a plan. We have been able to rank very consistently for these particular keywords or these particular searches that we target because of the way we're answering the question quickly right off the bat. Google finds that really helpful. By the way, that also gets your content featured either as a featured snippet often or in the new Google AI generated snapshot. This approach to writing blog posts has just been incredible.
And I think it's important to mention really quick that the reason why this recipe has worked so well is that over the years we have researched and tested and researched to figure out what the best format for a blog post is. And you may have heard the term SEO. This is on-page SEO. That's exactly what this blog post recipe is we found the most helpful way. And not only is it great for Google, they love how helpful it is, and that's why it ranks, but it's also a great user experience, which is the other half of the coin.
It's SEO too that doesn't really get outdated. There's so much to SEO that's taught that is trying to understand the way the algorithm works and then manipulate that algorithm. Try to pass the test by beating the test. Instead, what this is doing is it's ensuring that you're passing the test because you know the answers to the test. You're doing exactly what the test is testing for.
Isn't that how it's supposed to work?
That's how it's supposed to work. That's how tests are designed. It works so much better than trying to game the system. And we're not the only ones that say that, but man, like some of the best influencers I know in all of content creation have come to that exact same conclusion. Stop trying to beat the test, just ace the test because you know exactly how to create that kind of content. All right, in this phase, that whole first month, I don't expect you to go write 30 blog posts, one a day. It's a lot, especially when you're learning how to create that kind of content and when you're learning how to find the right topics. Really what we're usually searching for is around 10 blog posts in that first month, which might feel like a ton, but I would encourage you to not spend 6, 8, 10 hours on a single blog post. Try to do it in 2 or 3, see if that's feasible. I write that style of blog post typically in about an hour, and then I might spend a little bit more time on formatting or going to get original photos. But other than that, I'm not spending more than about an hour writing them. If you can do it in 2 or 3, you're gonna be in a really good shape. All right, let's talk about phase 3. At this point, we call this the ignition phase, and it's really at this point that we're going all in. We're diving in deeper. So in this stage, we're gonna be creating a lot more content. At this point, I do want you creating a lot more blog posts and trying to write every day or 2 a different blog post that you can publish.
One of the best ways to create large amounts of content is to just totally immerse yourself into the niche. If it's not something you're inside every single day, it's gonna be hard to come up with those topics and to find the inspiration to write. I personally find that if I replace my, what I would call free time with my immersion that needs to happen in my niche, I end up learning so much, and then the blog post writing just comes naturally. I think this is probably one of the only sustainable ways to write the amount of content that you need to write during this phase.
During this phase, we're also gonna learn the basics of monetization. We're gonna potentially put ads on the site. We usually hold off until we're getting around 1,000 page views a month as a minimum. Anywhere from 1 to 10,000 page views a month. You're not earning a lot from those ads, but it can be incredibly motivating to earn those first few dollars. So wherever you are in that stage when you get there, when you're just like, I'm feeling frustrated, it's not going super fast, maybe that's a good time to go ahead and put ads on your website, start making some money. The other thing that we're gonna start doing during this phase is affiliate marketing. As you create content, you're gonna see opportunities to make recommendations of products. We actually, in Project 24 and on this YouTube channel, teach 4 distinct strategies for how we implement affiliate marketing. It's not always just writing a regular old product review. That's one way that we approach it, but sometimes it's just giving a helpful link. It's saying, you know what, if you're doing this, you're gonna need this tool. Here's where I would go buy the tool. It's right here on Amazon. Just buy this one and you're good to go. There are those distinct strategies. We're not gonna dive in usually super deep on that in this phase, but I want you to at least, as you create content, start including those affiliate links.
Some of the things you'll start doing during this phase, like learning about monetization and maybe even implementing, it's really, really important that you have these foundations, that you are practicing the implementation, but even more importantly, learning about how it all works. What are the strategies that work best for affiliate marketing? What gets people to click? How can I be most helpful? These are things you're gonna be learning and practicing while you don't have a ton of traffic, so it's not gonna hurt too bad if you mess up a little bit.
Exactly. And we're gonna, again, spend just a couple months in this phase creating additional content, following that basic post recipe, and just doing some basic monetization. But mostly, I think one of the best things we can do, Nathan hit on it, was immersing yourself as much as you can in that niche. The more time that you can spend just being in the niche, the more it's gonna set you up for the rest of this stuff, and the less time that you're gonna have to spend researching for every individual blog post. That's gonna set you up for phase number 4, the traction phase. In the traction phase, this is where we're gonna dive deeper and create more in-depth content, and where you're gonna be able to create much more original content. With the stuff we've done so far, you're mostly gonna be trying to answer specific questions that maybe don't have great answers yet. And that's the unique value that you're gonna add through your own website. But at this phase, 1, as you've been immersing yourself in your niche, and 2, as you follow the different strategies we have for doing unique and original research, you're gonna be able to create different content that dives a lot deeper into your niche. You're also gonna learn about lots of different formats and structures for blog posts. A lot of these posts will be longer, but a lot of them won't necessarily be, they'll just be a lot more in-depth and contain that unique and original value from that original research that you're doing.
It's important that you learn and understand this type of post, this more in-depth type of post now, rather than in the beginning, because in the beginning, you're just so focused on learning how to write a blog post. You're so focused on, oh, how do I set up my website? There's all these little things. There's a little bit of a learning curve. But by the time you get to this phase, you're gonna be ready to write posts that are just meaty and so incredibly helpful that have the potential to drive more traffic and have more monetization opportunities. These are pillars on your website.
Really, in this phase, you're gonna write a lot of the content that is ever gonna be on your website. Not to say that you won't necessarily continue adding more content to it, maybe even forever. But there comes a point oftentimes where it makes more sense to just keep content up to date than to just add hundreds and hundreds or even thousands of blog posts to a website. So a lot of the content's gonna happen in this phase, and it's, again, having that foundation of solid content is gonna set you up really well for the future phases of this website.
Earlier, we mentioned AI and the impact that it's having on the industry. This right here is where you learn how to beat AI and write much more helpful content than it ever will. And that's because you're doing that original research, you're diving in deeper, and you're actually adding value. You're adding things that are not already out there. And that's how you're gonna end up standing out.
And this isn't to say that our whole process is anti-AI. And it's not to say that AI can't be a tool that you use to facilitate this process of creating this content. However, AI can't do the original research. AI won't add that unique value, and AI doesn't have personality, even if it tries to pretend that it does in some cases. This is where you can take, even if you use AI to help you in the process, this is where you're gonna learn and you're gonna gain a lot of practice in making your content truly original and unique and adding that personal touch.
There are a lot of tools that we can use as bloggers, and AI is one of them. There are definitely places where AI can totally help your creation process. This is a lot of work. This is not easy. And so anything that we can do to improve that process but still maintain the value is super important. And you're gonna learn those things along the way. Those are things that will come as you immerse yourself in the blogging niche, as you learn about your own niche that you're writing about.
I don't know how good of a job we're doing of convincing people to do this by telling them how much work this is. But the reality is that building something, one, that matters, that you can be proud of, but two, building something that earns a good income, both repeatably and sustainably. Like repeatably as in, I can show you a process and you can do it, and if you do it right, it's gonna work almost every time. I have to say almost because like there's a lot of it that depends on you. But it's a very repeatable process, I know, because we've literally helped thousands of members of Project 24 to do exactly this. But I mean it's sustainable also because it's something that when you do it right, the income continues for a long, long, long time. Websites that we built 5, 6, 7 years ago today are still earning a great income. Even ones we've sold off to other people, we touch base with them and they're like, oh yeah, it's earning a ton of money. It's awesome, thank you so much. All right, let's move on to phase number 5. In this phase, we call this the momentum phase. One of the main things that we're gonna do at this point is we're gonna build up EEAT, experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. We actually have a whole, well, it's a mini course, but it's like 50 lessons or something inside of Project 24 that goes through a lot of different ways that you can establish that you have experience, expertise, authoritativeness, or trustworthiness. By working through many of those steps, essentially what's gonna happen is your blog, potentially you as a person, are going to gain a reputation with Google, with search engines. And by gaining that reputation, they're going to trust you to the point that you can literally just publish an article one day and it's just, boom, it's ranking the same day or the next day. They don't even have to question that you know what you're talking about or that the information is accurate. They just trust you. It's pretty incredible, and that's why it's momentum. It really drives you forward.
Now this phase is kind of long in the grand scheme of things. We're spending a lot of time here. There's a lot going on. We're establishing this EEAT. We're also continuing to create surprise, a lot more content. You have to write a ton of posts. And so you're gonna continue strategizing your content production so that you can be as effective as possible. That might even look like outsourcing content potentially. But something else that we're gonna do, again, to help establish EEAT, something that we have found to be so helpful and so effective, is participate in other forms of media. And our personal favorite at this point in time is YouTube. Making videos, and even if you're not wanting to be a YouTuber, making videos that you could embed in your articles, you are just adding so much value to those articles. And rather than embedding somebody else's video and sending traffic over to them, you're actually making the most of the work that you're doing by creating a holistic resource for a viewer, for a searcher who needs to find an answer.
One of the biggest problems I think with a lot of bloggers is that they're doing this specifically like just to make money, which is great. That's why we do what we do, right? But that's the only reason. Oftentimes the topic is meaningless to them. It's just a matter of which topic can make me the most money, and that's why they've chosen it. And when that's the case, they often create content that when you read it and you actually know something about the niche, you read it and you say, has this person ever actually done this before? I do that like all the time. I search a question on a topic I know a lot about, but I just need that answer to that question. And I start reading it and I'm like, it's obvious to me that the writer of this blog post has never actually done this before. And then I click the next one and it's obvious to me the writer of this blog post has never done it before. And guess where AI is getting the answers when they answer questions in Google or when they write their own blog posts? They're getting it from all these people who've never done it before. That's where we can add real value to the internet and turn it into a much better place, is by actually doing the things we talk about. And the best way to show that is by showing them that in a video. It's so much harder to fake it, which is why it's so much better to do. So if you're like, nope, no way, I'm never doing that, that's fine. You can make it through this whole process. We have many members of Project 24 who earn a full-time income, make great money, and have never been on camera, never once in their lives. But this, in that phase, we're gonna show you how. And hopefully you'll take us up on that. All right, let's move on to the next phase. This is the revenue phase. We're gonna spend like 5 months in this phase. In this phase, of course, we're continuing to write content. We're also probably going back to the compass phase. In fact, we usually do that kind of toward the end of each of these phases now. And we're going through a battleship audit. And in this audit, essentially what we're doing is going through our content. We have a very methodical and straightforward, streamlined way to identify which blog posts have an opportunity to be revitalized or revamped or just updated or fixed in a way that could potentially drive a lot more traffic to your website. What we're doing at this point is we're using our own analytics, our own traffic data to determine which articles we really could have got a lot more traffic with, but we just didn't quite hit the mark, or we've kind of dropped off over time. So as we go through that, instead of writing a ton more content, we're often going through and either fixing content we already have or determining that, these topics on my website were really good. This whole category did not do well at all. It allows you to be more strategic about the content you make going forward, so it's even less of a throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks.
This is probably one of the most exciting phases because of this right here.
Talk about that piece.
Cha-ching, cha-ching, right? But this is so key. If you look at the entire plan here, we've been setting the stage for this. Because without all of this, plans you have with monetization, it means nothing. Cool, you put affiliate links on your website, but you have 10 page views a month. It's just not gonna do anything. But after you've done the work and built this foundation, you are ready to strategize, you're ready to optimize. And that's what's gonna happen here, is you're gonna find out what is working really, really well by using your analytics, by going in and seeing what articles are performing really well, what has more monetization opportunity than the others, what can I interlink to and from to make sure that everything's pointed in the right direction to give me the best monetization opportunity.
Exactly.
It's super exciting.
You know, people ask like, okay, but when can I start to expect that I'll make money? And honestly, it's probably somewhere here, not probably, for most people, it definitely falls here in phase 4. And that's like 4, 5, 6 months in. We've had the odd person who at 6 months in was at a full-time income. It's happened. We've also had the people who at 6 months in are still earning nothing. It's totally normal. And that's because all we're doing is that, and we're not getting a lot of traffic yet. What happens though, is that somewhere usually in here, probably, late in this phase or somewhere in this phase, the things you did here start to really make a difference. Also, the fact that you have as much content as you have and you've built up topical authority, now there's a level of trust established. And you see the traffic on your website do this. It goes up, up, and it does that. And when that's happening, we're well positioned for that. You might wonder, if info products make so much money, why don't we just make one from the beginning? There's a really good reason for that. And that is that when you don't have an audience yet, you don't know what they want. You won't know which categories on your website will do the best. You won't know which blog posts are gonna do the best on your website until they do the best on your website. And it can take that whole first year to really get to a point where you can see that. But once you start to see which topics on your website are driving a lot of traffic, suddenly it's really easy to see which questions that are the most popular. It's easy to see, if I'm getting all this traffic here, wow, these are all people that I could point toward a really cool resource I could make for them. So then we build out an info product, our own resource that we can provide to them to solve their problem, to fix this thing for them, and to make you a fantastic income. That's why this is so exciting.
Well, that leaves us with phase 7 here, which we call authority. And there are some really important decisions to be made here. You've come all this way, you're making money now, and there's some decisions to make what you want the blog to look like from now on.
Yeah, honestly, there are a couple of different major options you could take at this path. It's like this road diverging, right? And some people will go the route of, I want to stay really passive, but I want to grow. So maybe I'll add more content to this site, or maybe I'll just start a second one. And maybe what I could do is, since I know how all this works, I can outsource the writing. Maybe I can hire someone to be an editor that just makes sure that all the blog posts are in the format that I want. And I can just kind of run this as a business, and I can probably spend 4 hours a week on it, and I'm just gonna enjoy life. Maybe I'll even keep my job right. Because just rake in a great income and keep this as a passive side thing.
You might also decide to take it a little bit more serious. And when I mean serious, I mean working on it more.
Yeah,
like exactly. There are those people who just want to kind of live the blogger lifestyle, and that's awesome. Just a little bit more passive, but there's also a huge opportunity for brand building here. And that's when we're looking at things like these info products, maybe memberships. Your monetization options start opening up. And while it is more hands-on, the earning potential is amazing.
Exactly. That's the route that I went, right? Teaching people how to blog, we got to a point where it was like, well, I could just make a good passive income. I could collect affiliate revenue from recommending, hosting to people, maybe recommending camera gear to people. But instead, we went the path of creating an info product that we turned into a membership. And that membership has now turned into a business that employs multiple people. And so now that's something that's really meaningful to me, to be able to help provide an income for multiple people, but also it allows me to reach and really help a lot of people like you watching this video who want to learn about all this stuff. It allows me to be able to create YouTube videos like this one totally for free, but it also allows me to create a fantastic, complete membership program that can walk people through step by step by step by step and give them the support and the resources they need. Speaking about that, I think it is time. We've mentioned Project 24 so many times throughout this. I know that probably makes it sound like this is just a sales pitch. This process, understanding the timeline and understanding the order of things alone, that alone could help you to take all the things I've given you for free on YouTube and to structure them in a way that you could be successful with this. But also, we have created Project 24. I do want you to know what that is. It is a membership. In Project 24, we have a whole blogging system that is literally step by step by step by step showing you exactly how to do each one of these things and walking you through the whole process. We also have a YouTube system that does the same thing for anybody who's interested in creating a content business but would rather go the video route than the blogging route. We also have so many, I mentioned the EEAT mini course, we have our battle shipping mini course. We have so many other courses that cover specific nuances, monetization, affiliate marketing, and all that kind of stuff. And that's to make sure that you have everything you need as you work through this entire timeline. We also we have a community for these members that's incredibly active and people who are so supportive of each other. We share in each other's success. That's where you guys saw on screen when a member said that they made a bunch of money when they sold their site. That's where they came to celebrate with other people who understood what they were going through. We have other resources for you. We do mastermind sessions where we answer your questions. You can literally come to a virtual meeting with us and ask your question, and we will answer it personally. We have a podcast that comes out 3 times a month. We talk about blogging. 3 times a month, we talk about YouTube. There's so many resources available to you. I'm not even listing all of them. That's what it is. And the reason that we have this is to help you succeed. My goal is to help you to do this in under 24 months. That's what I want to achieve. We've had members who have told us, one in particular that, these are the numbers that this person told me. I was blogging for 7 years and was never successful. I joined Project 24 and 1 year later was at a full-time income. That's what happens when you have a process. And that's why we created it for you. So if I can help you get there a year sooner or 7 years sooner, or even 1 month sooner, the amount of money you'll make sooner is way more than what it's gonna cost you to join Project 24. So I encourage you to do that. Whether or not you're considering Project 24 though, first of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting us and watching this video. But also make sure that you check out the rest of the content on this channel that's completely free and that usually doesn't try to sell you Project 24, because that content is gonna help you to be much more successful with each one of these steps. I hope to see you in the rest of those videos.